Hi, I'm Matt Barry. This is Low Budget Visions, where we celebrate personal, DIY, independent filmmaking. And I'm joined today by return guest Hamish Downie. Hamish has just released a new short film, Life Echoes, which is out there now on YouTube. And I wanted to have Hamish on here to talk a little bit about the film. So, Hamish, welcome to Low Budget Visions.
Oh, thank you for having me back. It's great to be a return guest.
Always great to talk with you. And I'm glad that the occasion is that you have a new film out. So tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about Life Echoes and anything you want to share about it to get us started.
sure. So it's a short, just shy of 10-minute film, which is kind of what would you say? It's basically about a woman who um, i- talks to a medium to try and locate her missing girlfriend, and too much more than that, I guess, would spoil the rest of it.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I'll just encourage people to go check out the short. That's the setup, but I don't want to reveal too much here
right,
about the story. But let's
yeah.
to talk about to talk about how this film came to be. Do you want to just share a little bit where the idea came from, how you developed it, anything like that?
So, um, so the idea behind it is so I have this web series that is now in production, and it was supposed to come out at the same time as my feature film, Mutter and Vanilla. So I originally wrote it around the same period, and there was like a year gap between finishing the film and it being released on the streaming service. And so my intention was is to make a kind of companion web series. So this is a long story, but this is the origin of the short. So anyway, as you know, the coronavirus happened, so obviously, like this web series, it's a musical and it's a love story, like the two big things that you can't do during the pandemic. So Um, so that got shelved, and then the actress I wanted to play the main character, she moved back to America, and so I was like, oh, well, this was really written for her. What am I going to do? So a few years later, I have one of my co-workers, someone I work with, who confessed that she had in the Philippines, she had gone to acting school and learned how to sing, and she wanted to be an actress. And I was like, well, I was like, well, I'm a director, I'm a writer, why not? So there's a short film I wrote for her called The Voice in My Head, which is about a 6-minute short film. And that was kind of a Cody Clark inspired film because it is just images with a voiceover. Even though I know he doesn't just do movies like that. Anyway, so she did pretty well in that one. So I thought, okay, well let's do something bigger, which is Life Echoes, and so all of these are kind of tests for Marry Me Maki, which we're now in production. So um, yeah, so that's kind of how it all fits in
Great.
because
And could you
you
talk a little bit
know
about your writing process? I mean, I know that you've done feature films, you're working on a web series right now. With a
yeah.
short film, do you find that I mean, aside from the obvious difference of the length, do you find that you
Mm.
take like a kind of a different, a different mindset, a different approach to writing a short versus an idea for a feature? I mean, could you talk a little bit about how
Sure.
that plays into it?
Yeah. I guess the official response should be that obviously a short film really should be a contained story between two people, and it's really about a moment rather than about this big story. But having done a feature now, like writing a short because it's comparatively so easy. Um, so like. I guess like the idea behind this was that I wanted to get back into horror. Like I'm kind of sort of eh, well, I guess my thought process is like, oh, it might be nice to sort of go out of my little cul-de-sac in the LGBT world and like sort of move towards or transition towards like doing more mainstream like a horror. And this is sort of basically what I came up with. Um, so the original concept was all around catfishing, which is completely out of the final film. But yeah, that was kind of the genesis of it. Is that I was going to have it between three people initially, but the third person like couldn't come, so it sort of yeah, so it evolved basically, and there's the horror writer Andrea Dean Van Scoy. So we've been talking for years now about collaborating on excuse me, on something. I mean, technically, I did do like a sort of music video for one of her instrumentals called Lost Hope. Um, but yeah, this was kind of my way of saying, like, okay, let's work together. Um, and her part of it is a, um, a kind of incantation or a chant, um, which, so, on top of being an author, she is like a country witch. So based in Florida. And so she wrote something for me. And a funny little bit of trivia. Sorry, I'm going on and on and on. A funny bit of trivia is that uh, I shouldn't be smiling when I say this, but both actresses got into minor accidents after the shoot, like directly after the shoot. And so I kind of wonder whether, like, oh, did we really raise the dead? When I mean, obviously, we do it a fair few times. Like, it's not just said once. And so um, I don't know. Like, yeah, because I think that Narelle, who plays, ah, now, sorry, her name's escaping me at the moment, but Narelle, who's the main character, uh, yeah, I think she got in a little minor like bicycle accident, and then yeah, poor AJ had a bit of a fall down some stairs. And look, they're both young enough, like they recovered and they're all fine, but it was just something like a bit spooky, to be honest, where it's like, ooh,
Yeah, a
anyway.
little bit of yeah, life imitating art, it sounds like. I'm curious if you when you were casting the project, I know you
Mm.
talked about this a bit already, but could you talk a little bit about the the lead performers, how you came to work with them, and also just the experience of directing and working together with them?
So so Narelle was always set because it was really a project for her. Um, but so AJ was a little bit of a last minute addition. In so uh, I was originally planning on working with Kane from Matcha and Vanilla, but she was unavailable that day. And then uh, I was talking with Irina, who had a small part in Matcha and Vanilla. Um, so she has like this, kind of posterior length hair. And so I kind of thought it would be marvelous for this kind of pseudo ghost story. And like she even said at one point, like, "Oh, can I cut my hair?" And I was like, "No, you can't cut your hair." I think she still has long hair, but um, I think at the time the filming date ended up being set, her mum was here from Italy, so she couldn't actually take part in the shoot, so she kept her long hair for no reason. But um, so I remembered that AJ had posted something. So I have like a group for creatives, like filmmakers, actors, creatives based in Osaka or Kansai. And AJ is a cosplayer. So she's a relatively well known cosplayer. She goes around with like a whole batch of wolves that she's trained to bark at the same time, and like she does all the costumes and really cool stuff. Um, so I remember her saying like she was complaining that there were no auditions in Osaka, and I sort of kept it in my mind because I said to her like, oh, they come in waves, right? But then I thought like, okay, I'll give her a chance. So I sent her a message like, okay, if you're free, you don't need to audition. Like, just just come. And she was like, oh, how do I dress? I was like, okay, no, don't dress, with any copywritten characters, but um, dress how you think this character might dress. And obviously, like one's basically white and one's basically dressed in black. And so I mean, at this level, people are their own costume designers. They send little things and go like, "Hey, is this okay?" It's like, yeah, that seems cool. Like, I liked that it was a little bit matrixy, and it was this very like 2000s pop diva, like very, uh, like she could have been a member of TLC if that's a reference that anyone's going to understand now. But like I don't know, I felt like she could have been like a fourth member. But anyway, that's how she got cast. So yeah, it is. Well, I suppose it is like what you know and who you know.
Did you have
Um,
any particular conversations with them as you were preparing for the film? Any kind of guidance that you gave them in thinking about the characters or explaining the situation, sort of the tone that you were going for? Was there anything specific that you gave them through that direction?
mm, I did talk to both of them beforehand. Um, I didn't get to talk to them together, but I talked to them separately. So um, so yeah, AJ's character is Azriel, so she understood the background of that name, and because that's yeah, kind of angel of death, kind of the name. Um, and then yeah, so I did have a bit of a conversation like this is what it's kind of going to be. Like it's going to be meditative. Like it's not like a hugely traumatic thing, but you know, um, yeah, just to sort of react to each other. Um, and yeah, I, I think it's all sort of worked out. Like, um, the actual shoot itself was a little tough because, um, because sometimes when you're working with like non-actors, so like even though AJ is a cosplayer, this was not her first. I think this was basically her first film that she'd done. Um, so memorizing lines may have been a bit tough. Um, you know, but and the same with Narelle because you're reacting with each other. I mean, as a writer, it was kind of interesting to notice that like they had an easier time remembering my dialogue, which is like really plain and simple, whereas like uh, Andre is like very poetic dialogue. They really struggled with that. Like that. That's to tell how the sausage is made. There is a reason why it's all cut up throughout the film. Like it is an artistic choice, but because yeah, otherwise it would have been a little bit choppy.
Gotcha. You mentioned that this idea was developed
Mm.
more or less concurrently with matcha and vanilla. Did I understand
Oh,
that correctly?
sorry. No, the Marry Me Mucky is developed concurrently.
Oh, okay.
Um, this one was pretty quick. Um, so like maybe a month before actually shooting, um, I sort of came up with the idea. It, it's also a kind of companion piece. So at the time, um, so I like just after making Matcha and Vanilla, um, I had a little bit of money, and because of the pandemic, I ended up deciding to do a short animation called The Last Anomaly, and so that and Life Echoes kind of have that same, you know, life after death, you know, kind of motif or theme. Um, obviously, uh, The Last Anomaly is a lot more explicit about that because it begins with the world exploding. So it's pretty clear what's going on. Um, whereas Life Echoes is a little bit different. Um, but yeah, I guess that's just sort of, I guess we were going through a huge pandemic, and the idea of death and the afterlife, I guess, was on a lot of our minds. I mean, you've recently made a metaphysical film yourself, so
Yeah, it's interesting to hear because I was curious how your previous films, informed how you were thinking about developing this one, or if they did, if you were drawing on a lot of that. So that's interesting to hear about The Last Anomaly, especially. I've seen that one, and yeah, I can see the connection now that you mention it.
yeah. I mean, like obviously, yeah, the silence is kind of that same idea in that's sort of a circular story a little bit. So it's sort of a purgatory story. Um, I mean, you can trace it right back to the Silent Hill fan film that we made, which was another purgatory story. So I guess, yeah, after Matcha and Vanilla, this was kind of reverting back to that. Excuse me, because I do, Paul and I do find that dynamic really interesting. Like even though Paul is pretty much a, but I think just that the question or like that situation, I think we find very interesting. Um, so like yeah, I mean, because you've watched The Last Anomaly, I do. But both of these films, I am trying not to say what happens after death, even though it's about after death. Um, like in the animation, you can see like little bits of heaven and hell, but yeah, because I still kind of kind of like what they did in uh, the new Blade Runner movie, where they ask Harrison Ford if he or Decker if he's android or not, if he's a replicant or not, and he just says, "I don't know." And so I kind of thought, well, that's smart. Like I don't want, yeah, I don't want to impose like my ideas of what might happen afterwards. Like especially Life Echoes, you don't is sort of in that the limbo land that yeah, the last anomaly is. Sorry, that's all a little bit mumble jumbly.
No, it's interesting to think about because you had mentioned to
Yeah,
me, we talked earlier in an email, and you had mentioned
yeah,
about, I think you described it as kind of a religious
yeah,
theme, I guess, that you've been exploring in some
yeah.
recent films. Is that something that I mean, could you if anything you want to share about that, and also maybe how you see it coming into play with future projects? Is this an idea that
Sure.
you see yourself coming back to?
Yeah, well, like I've always shied away from that. So like, my father's a minister. So I grew up in the church, and it's it's what I grew. It's the environment that I grew up in. So um, I don't know, like in the last, I guess since making these two films, I kind of thought maybe this is something I can incorporate. Um, so yeah, so the next one, uh, it's like I wouldn't call it a faith film. Like Marimi Maki is not really a faith film, but like characters are more explicitly Christian or Buddhist or something, and because it is an element in that um, when you're in, because Marimaki is a sort of intercultural relationship in Japan, which is sort of based on my intercultural relationship with my partner. Um, so and yeah, I just sort of wanted to talk about that, which there's a filmmaker in Texas, Brimo Morales, I want to say her name. Uh, so she's a lesbian filmmaker in, I want to say Austin, but I'm probably going to get that wrong. But anyway, somewhere in Texas. Um, and uh, she's exploring that space as well. Like uh, she's written a script about um, yeah, the name is escaping me, but she's written a script which is about gays and religion. And I thought, mate, that's something that I should do because, um, that is part of my life, and it's something that doesn't get explored an awful lot in in the LGBT genre, and I think it's there. Like, I mean, if it gets explored, it's usually like a conversion story, or it's usually a conversion therapy story, or it's always presented as something bad. And I just thought it would be interesting to integrate, to be something kind of different. Um, yeah, so yeah,
It's
this, yeah, so I was just going to say, I'm just being inspired by other other people in this same space that we all kind of occupy, like this sort of low budget vision indie filmmaker, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like there's a strong spiritual element to Life Echoes that I found, very compelling, and I think it's something that
Thanks.
really, runs through the film, and so I think it works quite well there. And yeah, it's always, I guess that's the thing with personal and independent filmmaking. It's just, any way we can get these ideas across, whether it's a
Right.
whatever situation we're filming, a short film, and it's something I also find interesting with a lot of your work is I see it as a lot of it's a character, it's a very kind of intimate scale character drama. I think this is something with from Matcha and Vanilla, and that's certainly true of Life Echoes. Is that something I imagine you find interesting as a filmmaker, is to really look at the relationship between two characters and explore that in depth?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, that's, it's all interesting. Um, the that Never Let You Down music video I did, which was my first project, which is like the kind of, it's action running through Tokyo kind of thing. And I would love to do something like that, but, I don't really have the budget to be able to do a kind of kung fu John Wick type film. Like, if someone wants to give me that project, I would do it in a heartbeat. But I would probably want to incorporate both, like that. there is some character, like there is some, because that, I mean, that that's I think why we sit around a campfire and tell stories is the human drama. We're trying to figure out things like as the late great Betty White once said about what happens after death, and apparently her mother had said that you know whenever someone dies, that Betty White's mother had said to her that it's like, oh look, now they know the secret. And it's like, well, I want to know the secret. So that's that kind of, yeah. It's I don't know. It's fascinating to me.
Well, I
You
look
know,
forward to seeing how you explore these questions in future films. It seems like it's an idea that you'll likely be returning to, just based on what you're telling me here.
I think so. I yeah. I yeah. I think so. Although, um, I mean, this is a bit weird, but I'll go and show you what I'm doing currently, which would be next, which is
Ah,
working. Hello, with the Muppets. Although I shouldn't say that. Working with puppets that's look like they could be a Jim Henson.
well, that sounds like a fun project.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Although, like, because when you got no money, right? Like it. I will say the interesting thing about working with puppets is like when you're the quote actor who's buried under the table and has to try and talk to people without being able to see anyone or know what's happening, or if you're in focus, that that was a lot harder than I anticipated. So I think the Jim Henson productions, they have a little monitor that they can look at. So
Yeah.
I don't have that. But anyway, it's it's enormous fun, and and the thing that I love most about it is that I've never seen people look so happy as like even you just now, like anytime and like an actor or whoever, whenever they deal with a Muppet, like everyone just looks so happy, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know. So yeah,
There's so much
that's
fun and creativity that can spring out of that kind of format. I mean, I think, yeah, certainly you mentioned Jim Henson as kind of a model for that. I think, his work is so influential, I think, for a lot of filmmakers, storytellers, whether they're working with puppetry or not, because it's just, yeah, it's such a big part of the fun of and play of the creative process.
and it is like whether you're like mixing blood or putting ketchup on someone's face or working with a puppet or I mean doing something meditative like life echoes where it's like okay you're going to be sitting on a rock or sitting on a tree in a dying mud lake. um it's yeah, as you say, it's all play. Like it's just that's the joy of our level of just getting to play with these creative ideas. It's a privilege, really. So, and I should say thank you very much for. I don't know when this will come out, but thank you for including Life Echoes in your upcoming film screening.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to, help get it out there any way that I can. I think it's always important to see films with an audience. I've had some very nice experiences with that over the past year. I've been able to set up some screenings of my own work and some other independent filmmakers with whom I'm connected, and and just attending some festivals. The point being, I think it's always a really fun experience to be able to see a film with an audience, and even if, as a filmmaker, even if we're not able to be there for the screening. I think just being able to know that it's happening and to hear how it went
Absolutely.
is nice. So I'm trying to make more of that happen. Do what I can.
Yeah. Look, I think these are so important. I was thinking on the train ride home tonight, um, that like the name Low Budget Visions would be such a great name for a film festival, like Low Budget Vision Film Festival. Like to yeah. So like if you want to ever want to, I know you're just starting it, but like take it to the next step of being a film festival, because like it's something that I know so this is where I'm having all these like half thoughts. Um, so like in that sort of truly independent space, like maybe film festivals are not as important, but like I guess with people who still want to go into film festivals, like there is that frustration of like which ones really, which ones just care about ticking boxes. Like it, when you find something like Gilbert Baker, or you find someone like yourself, like a fellow filmmaker who just wants to do a film screening, to me, that's like far more important than, getting into Sundance and or any of those other things. Like, to me, just these, if the person organizing the festival cares about the films, to me that's the true win.
Yeah,
You know,
to me, I always come back to the word community. I really
yeah,
do think of the filmmaking community as well, I think of filmmaking as a community of people who, want to just get their visions out there, and they may look very different. Those visions, whether it's, a larger budget feature,
mm,
short film, a large scale type of film, a small, intimate character drama, they may look very different, but I think at the end of the day, like you said, it really comes back to telling stories around the campfire, the human drama, the shared experience. And to me, the film screening, whether you want to call it a festival or just um, it's a one-off screening or whatever. But I think just being able to bring people together, it is a continuation of that kind of tradition that you talk about.
it is, and like there is something very special about getting to watch your film with an audience. Like I, I haven't actually done that since Khan, I think. Like I really need to get my act together and just put on a screening, cast and crew screening for everyone. So
You mentioned, of course, that Life Echoes had played at the Gilbert
Gilbert Baker.
Baker Film Festival, right? Is there any other? Do you currently have any other festival engagements lined up?
No, no, like I mean, yeah, I mean that's a whole other thing. But uh, honestly, like because Gilbert Baker's film festival and Jen and Ping, the festival directors, they've just been so supportive of me that I, I I've sort of refocused to just them now. Um, and like you offering a festival, like a film screening, and then I think AJ, not AJ, the actor in my movie, AJ, the director and sales agent in New York that is distributing a number of my shorts. I know he's putting on an event to raise money for his next project, and I think he's going to use one of my films there. And like to me, that's just yeah. To me, I'm thrilled. Like yeah. It's all of it is thrilling. It's just nice to be able to share your work with other people.
Well, I appreciate you, agreeing to let me screen it. I'm glad to, like I said, I'm glad to help get the word about it out there. And I'm glad it's on YouTube and just doing this interview and talking about it. So
Yeah, and thank you for having it on the website. Like,
certainly, yeah,
uh,
yeah. Do whatever what I can with that. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up, unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
no, just thank you and keep doing what you're doing. Want to cheer you on. I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. Like, and I'm tickled pink that it's going to be in Baltimore, the home of John Waters.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and I'll
No
put a link
worries.
in the description of this video where people can find your work. We mentioned that last time you spoke with me on here, so
Yeah.
I'll put that link again, and just say encourage everybody to go check out Life Echoes now on
Oh,
YouTube.
thank you so much. Okay.